Finally, some people feel that our process isn't working because it's not automated, because it's manual, because it's on paper. There's a trend right now toward modernizing government. And some people say that means that we have to digitize all our paper, we have to build an app, we need fancy new software. And yes, some of this needs to happen, but when I train in person, I usually ask, raise your hands if you've been a part of a major software implementation. And I say, okay, how many of you did that major software implementation fix all your problems? And every hand goes down. What I think is true instead is that automating a bad process can make it worse. Let me tell you a story. Early in my career, I worked in a medical clinic. We were in the process, when I was there, of transitioning to digital radiology. So that means that instead of having your x-rays on film, your x-rays were on a digital image. This was a big deal, involved a lot of equipment, it was many, many months of preparation, and then they launched digital radiology, and immediately there was a crisis because the radiologist said, we have no way of doing rereads. And I said, what's a reread? And the radiologist said, oh, a reread is when we take an x-ray and I send it up to the doctor, and the doctor gets a note from the radiologist that says, I've x-rayed this person's hand and there is no break in the wrist. And the doctor sends it back down to radiology for a reread with a note that says, I didn't want to know about the wrist, I wanted to know if the patient's finger was broken. And the way that they accommodated rereads in the past was that they would take the physical x-ray film and put a sticky note on it and send it back down. And the new digital radiology system had no way of kicking it back with that virtual sticky note. So now all of a sudden, everyone is trying to figure out how they program this virtual sticky note into their new system. But nobody in this process stopped to ask what I think is the fundamental question, which is, why on earth doesn't the radiologist know what the doctor is trying to x-ray for? Now we're building software to accommodate an error. We're spending more money, we are crystallizing that error in code. And that's what we risk doing if we don't improve our process before we buy software. So yes, your old computer system with the DOS prompt probably needs to be replaced. But if you don't replace it with a system that's going to address your process problems, if you haven't cleaned up the process underneath that system first, you risk making it worse. The important thing isn't whether your software uses a DOS prompt, it's whether it meets the needs of your users effectively. So yes, digitize your forms, replace your systems, but only after you've fixed the underlying process.